The story takes place at Donovan's, a luxurious high-end restaurant in San Diego, where elegance and sophistication define the atmosphere. The crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over polished wooden tables, adorned with white linen and gleaming silverware. Waiters move gracefully, balancing trays with precision as diners enjoy their exquisite meals. Among them sits Evelyn Monroe, a woman of undeniable wealth and status, whose presence demands attention. Dressed in tailored perfection and adorned with dazzling jewelry, she radiates superiority. To Evelyn, everything follows a hierarchy, and she places herself firmly at the top. Meanwhile, at the far end of the room, a young waitress named Emily works tirelessly, her exhaustion evident from weeks of double shifts as she saves for college. However, when she makes a minor mistake while serving Evelyn's table, she becomes the target of public humiliation. Evelyn belittles her with sharp words, using her power to entertain her friends at Emily's expense. Unbeknownst to her, a quiet man in a grey suit watches closely. He is Charles Donovan, the restaurant's owner. His silent observation and subsequent intervention will soon turn the evening upside down, delivering a lesson that wealth alone cannot buy: the power of kindness and respect. Evelyn Monroe is a woman of wealth and influence, someone who thrives on the attention and admiration of those around her. She is impeccably dressed, adorned with diamond jewelry that reflects her privileged lifestyle. Her confidence is unwavering, and she carries herself as though she is untouchable, placing herself above everyone in the room. To Evelyn, the world operates in a strict hierarchy, where those with money and status hold power, while those who serve are invisible until they make a mistake. That evening at Donovan's, a high-end restaurant in San Diego, Evelyn and her friends enjoy an extravagant dinner, their laughter ringing across the elegantly decorated dining hall. Meanwhile, a young waitress named Emily, exhausted from weeks of double shifts, navigates the crowded restaurant, trying her best to perform her duties with professionalism. However, a small misstep in serving Evelyn's table changes everything. With cold amusement, Evelyn seizes the opportunity to ridicule Emily, belittling her for the slightest imperfection. Her sharp words cut through the air, drawing laughter from her friends and discomfort from other diners. To her, Emily is nothing more than an incompetent worker, unworthy of respect. She mocks the way Emily walks, the way she speaks, and even questions her ability to work in an establishment of such high standards. The humiliation is deliberate, calculated, and cruel. Emily, though visibly shaken, maintains her composure, refusing to let Evelyn's words break her spirit. What Evelyn fails to realize is that her cruel display is being closely observed. In the corner of the restaurant, a man in a simple grey suit sits quietly, his expression unreadable. He watches every moment unfold, his fingers tapping lightly against his glass. This man is Charles Donovan, the owner of the restaurant, and, more importantly, Emily's uncle. As the night progresses, Evelyn remains oblivious to the fact that her actions have not gone unnoticed. She continues her conversation, boasting about her luxurious vacations and flawless service elsewhere. But soon, she will come to understand that power is not measured by wealth alone. Charles, a man of quiet authority, is about to intervene, offering her a lesson that will shake the very foundation of her arrogance. She will learn that kindness and respect are not optional, they are essential. As the evening progressed, Evelyn Monroe's sense of superiority only grew stronger. Seated at the center of the restaurant, she reveled in the attention of her friends, using every opportunity to assert her dominance. When Emily, the young and hard-working waitress, arrived at her table with their meals, Evelyn wasted no time in finding something to criticize. Her tone was sharp, her words laced with condescension. She scrutinized her steak, claiming it was overcooked, and scoffed at the time it took to be served. Emily, taken aback but determined to remain professional, quickly apologized and offered to have the dish remade. But Evelyn wasn't interested in solutions. She was interested in making a spectacle. With a smirk, She openly mocked Emily's nervous demeanor, ensuring that those around them heard every cutting remark. Her friends laughed along, entertained by her cruel display. To Evelyn, Emily was nothing more than an incompetent server, someone undeserving of respect. She made further jabs, criticizing the way Emily carried herself, and even suggesting that she should find a job more suited to her level. The humiliation was intentional, meant to reinforce Evelyn's own self-importance. Though many diners grew visibly uncomfortable with Evelyn's behavior, she remained oblivious. However, in the corner of the restaurant, a man in a grey suit observed the entire scene. His expression was calm, his gaze unwavering. That man was Charles Donovan, the owner of the restaurant, and Emily's uncle. And while Evelyn may have believed she held power in that moment, she was about to learn that true authority comes not from wealth, but from the way one treats others. As Evelyn continued her cruel tirade, she remained unaware that her actions were being closely observed. In the corner of the restaurant, Charles Donovan, the owner of the establishment, sat in quiet contemplation. He had watched the entire exchange unfold, the humiliation, the unnecessary cruelty, and the way Emily had struggled to maintain her composure despite the harsh treatment. His expression remained unreadable, but his fingers lightly tapped against the edge of his glass, a subtle sign that he was considering his next move. Rather than confront Evelyn immediately, Charles chose a different approach. He quietly rose from his seat and made his way toward the restaurant's manager. Their exchange was brief, but the shift in the manager's demeanor was telling. His eyes widened slightly before he nodded in understanding, realizing that something significant was about to happen. Evelyn, still basking in the attention of her friends, remained completely unaware that the course of her evening was about to change. Moments later, as Evelyn requested the check, the manager approached her table, accompanied by Emily. He carried a bottle of champagne and an envelope, presenting them with a composed expression. Evelyn's smugness flickered for a moment as she accepted the envelope. Her curiosity piqued. However, the confidence in her expression faded entirely when Charles himself stepped forward. With quiet authority, Charles introduced himself as the owner of Donovan's, and more importantly, as Emily's uncle. His words were measured, yet firm, as he addressed Evelyn's behavior. He made it clear that while mistakes happen, there is a right way to handle them, with kindness and respect. Evelyn, who had thrived on belittling others, suddenly found herself in the uncomfortable position of being held accountable. And this time, she had no clever retort. Charles Donovan stood before Evelyn's table, his presence commanding yet composed. He didn't raise his voice, nor did he need to. His words carried a weight that silenced the entire restaurant. Addressing Evelyn directly, he explained that while customers had every right to expect quality service, respect and kindness were not optional. He emphasized that mistakes happen, but how one chooses to handle them reveals true character. Evelyn, who had spent the evening enjoying her own superiority, suddenly found herself exposed. The power she once wielded so carelessly now felt insignificant under Charles's unwavering gaze. Then Charles revealed something that shifted the entire atmosphere. He would not be offering Evelyn and her friends complimentary champagne as a gesture of goodwill. Instead, the cost of their meal and the champagne's value would be donated to a local organization that supports young women like Emily, women who work tirelessly to build a better future for themselves. Murmurs of approval rippled through the restaurant. The very audience Evelyn had sought to entertain with her cruel jokes was now watching her in silent judgment. For the first time that evening, Evelyn had nothing to say. Her confidence wavered, her fingers fidgeting with the stem of her wineglass. Her friends, once so eager to laugh along, now sat in awkward silence, unsure how to respond. Meanwhile, Emily stood to the side, her eyes wide with disbelief and gratitude. She had endured the humiliation with grace, and now she was being recognized not as a target of ridicule, but as a young woman worthy of respect. As Charles took a step back, he left Evelyn with one final thought. Wealth might buy luxury, but it does not grant the right to belittle those who make it possible. As Charles Donovan's words settled over the restaurant, a noticeable shift occurred in the air. The tension that had once stemmed from Evelyn's cruel display now transformed into quiet admiration for the lesson that had just been delivered. The other diners, who had initially observed the scene with discomfort, now exchanged approving nods and murmurs of agreement. Some glanced toward Emily with newfound respect, recognizing the strength it had taken for her to remain professional under such harsh treatment. Others looked at Evelyn, not with disdain, but with a silent hope that she had learned something valuable. Evelyn, who had walked into Donovan's believing herself to be superior to those around her, now sat motionless, her face flushed with embarrassment. The amusement that had once flickered in her friend's eyes was gone, replaced by unease. The power dynamic had shifted, not because Charles had humiliated her, but because he had reminded everyone that true power lies in dignity, respect, and kindness. Meanwhile, Emily, who had endured Evelyn's cruelty with grace, felt a quiet sense of validation. As she returned to her duties, she noticed a subtle yet meaningful change. Patrons now acknowledged her with warm smiles, a silent gesture of support. Some left larger tips, while others took a moment to thank the staff for their service. The restaurant, though returning to its usual rhythm, carried a renewed sense of awareness. Charles himself did not gloat over the outcome. He simply returned to his table, satisfied that a lesson had been taught, not just to Evelyn, but to everyone present. That night, Donovan's wasn't just a fine dining establishment. It became a place where kindness was reaffirmed as a fundamental value, reminding everyone that respect costs nothing, but means everything. As the evening at Donovan's drew to a close, the once confident Evelyn Monroe found herself unusually silent. The weight of the evening's events settled heavily on her shoulders. She had entered the restaurant believing she was untouchable, secure in her wealth and status. Now, for the first time in a long while, she felt small. The sting of public humiliation was unfamiliar to her, but even more unsettling was the realization that in a single moment she had been stripped of the power she once wielded so effortlessly. Her friends, who had eagerly laughed along with her earlier remarks, now avoided direct eye contact. The laughter, the arrogance, the superiority, all of it had faded. Instead, they sat stiffly, unsure of how to respond to the situation. The restaurant, too, had changed. Though the evening continued as usual, a quiet lesson lingered in the air. Evelyn hesitated before rising from her seat. She had always left places like this with an air of confidence, her head held high. But now, as she moved toward the exit, her steps were hesitant, her posture no longer commanding. She paused at the doorway, glancing back at the restaurant she had once felt in control of. The staff continued their work. The other diners resumed their meals, but something was different. She had been forced to confront something uncomfortable, the truth about herself. Outside, the cool night air greeted her as she stepped onto the sidewalk. Her friends murmured awkward goodbyes, sensing that the night had not gone as planned. Evelyn didn't try to stop them. Instead, she stood still, alone with her thoughts. For the first time, she wasn't sure if she had won. Perhaps she had finally lost something more important than her pride. The story of Evelyn and Emily teaches us a timeless lesson about dignity, respect, and the true meaning of character. In life, wealth and status may grant privileges, but they do not define a person's worth. True value lies in how we treat others, especially those who serve us. Evelyn believed that money gave her the right to belittle those she saw as beneath her, but in the end, she learned that power built on arrogance is fragile. For older generations, this lesson holds even deeper significance. Many have lived long enough to see that kindness and humility leave a far greater legacy than wealth or social standing. The way we treat others, whether family, friends, or strangers, shapes how we are remembered. A kind word, a gesture of respect, or a moment of patience can make a lasting impact. Charles Donovan's quiet but firm intervention reminds us that standing up for what is right does not require aggression, only conviction. In a world that often values material success over human connection, this story serves as a gentle reminder. True greatness is found not in riches, but in the kindness and respect we show to those around us.